Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Basel Pod. It is Sunday. It is March 9th, which means we are exactly 1 week away from Selection Sunday. In 7 days and change, probably towards, the evening of next Sunday, we will have a full bracket. We've already got 2 teams that have clinched their spot. And mind you, for the first time ever, both teams have clinched their first ever spot in the Division I men's basketball tournament. I'm Sam Basel, sitting here with Michael DeRosa, where we're going to be breaking down our final NCAA Tournament Tiers. DeRosa, how you doing this week?
Doing pretty well. Very excited for this upcoming week. This Champ Week is so much fun, so it's going to be fun. Hell, we have a couple championship games today, so.
Yeah, we got 4 championship games today, so there are going to be 4 more teams that we're not going to be able to talk about that are going to be, punching their ticket to the big dance. So basically what we're going to be doing this week, I know for the past couple of weeks, we've had some pretty complicated tiers. We've had teams that we think are locks, teams that should be in, teams that are in the bubble, and teams that were relative long shots. But now it's championship week. Aside from, Michigan and Michigan State tipping off today, a couple other teams around the high majors, getting in some last regular season games. Everyone's pretty much done. So everyone has pretty much been placed in their respective conferences bracket. So at this point, for any team that's not in a one-bid league, you've pretty much figured out whether or not you are in or whether or not you need a good performance. Not necessarily to win the whole thing, but you need a good performance in your respective conference tournament excuse me, to make the 2025 bracket. So, DeRosa, these are the teams that we've got right now. 2 teams confirmed, SIUE and Omaha, both clinched their first ever spot in the NCAA tournament. There is a slight technicality with Omaha in the Summit League. Obviously, they clinched it. They have not won their tournament yet. They can still they still have the Summit League championship game today, but they're going up against St. Thomas, who is currently ineligible for the NCAA tournament because they're making their way up. I know. It's actually the worst rule ever.
Yeah.
And we're seeing more and more teams get opportunities to win their tournament. Like, I think it's just outdated is what it is. Because, I feel like there have been more and more cases of good teams making their way, to their conference championship and then not being able to win the tournament, to enter the tournament, I should say. So, regardless, still happy for Omaha, still happy for SIUE, but kind of wish the playing field was a little bit more level. Moving into the should be in categories, these are the teams that have been pretty much in the locks category or the fairly comfortable category for most of the time of us doing this podcast. There are 37 at-large bids in the NCAA tournament, and there are 37 teams in this middle category. Obviously, several of these teams have a pretty good chance of getting auto bids by winning their conference tournament. So basically what we're going to do today is we're going to be picking out those teams that will probably win their conference tournament and won't get the at-large bid, and then filling in those empty spots to figure out, our kind of final at-large tournament field. So, DeRosa, some top contenders here, some top seeds right now, some teams that have already clinched the regular season title in their respective conferences. A couple that jump out to me right now, St. John's, Duke. For you, is there anybody that you feel like is going to get the auto bid in this middle tier?
Duke, Gonzaga, Houston, Auburn, St. John's. Conservative, we'll start there. Yeah.
Say that again. Duke, Gonzaga, Houston, Auburn.
St. John's. I think that's like a fairly conservative start. Yeah.
So out of those 5 teams, Houston, I believe, is the only one who Gonzaga is the one who did not clinch the regular season title in the WCC. That was St. Mary's, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for you, where does Gonzaga hold the edge over St. Mary's in this? I know you haven't really been big on Gonzaga a lot this podcast, but they've lost to St. Mary's twice this year.
Mm-hmm.
So if they meet St. Mary's again in the WCC tournament, which I believe both teams are going to be entering the tournament in the semifinals tomorrow because they got that whack bracket. Where do you feel like Gonzaga has the edge here?
In the first game when they played, it was the day Luka got traded, so I remember this pretty clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Gonzaga kind of outplayed St. Mary's. St. Mary's just like banked in 3 threes. So that was my logic for picking Gonzaga in the second game. That did not go well. It didn't, but I don't know. We see the stat every year. Everyone says like, oh, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. And like all the numbers nerds come out. And it's like, no, it's actually really easy. But they don't weight that stat for those teams being like even. It's always like, yeah, I expect St. John's to beat DePaul 3 times in a year because they're that much better, right?
Yeah.
We never see the stat weighted for what it's like when teams are even. And I don't know. So like this is me saying I have no idea, but I just can't imagine St. Mary's beating Gonzaga, a team that is higher ranked in KenPom, that has a couple of matchup advantages, namely speed. St. Mary's can't really score consistently 3 times. I just can't see it. So from that perspective, the numbers like Gonzaga, I like Gonzaga.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, you can't. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, but the weighting is crucial, like you said.
Yeah, I expect St. John's to beat Butler 3 times. Like if they end up playing again, St. John's is gonna win that game. They'd win that game 99 times out of 100.
Yeah, and what's interesting is again, I'm just surprised by this change of heart from you, because I've mentioned we've talked about how the numbers love Gonzaga pretty much this entire time, and you've been ready to kind of discount that. So what has kind of changed with these numbers that you like them now?
I still don't love Gonzaga. It's just
to be a deep tournament team.
Yeah, it depends on the draw. Really for them. I mean, I don't expect them to win like 2 games in the tournament. My computer just decided, we're going quiet mode now, so I'm going to plug it in just to make sure it doesn't die. I don't expect them to make a run. I mean, I wouldn't want to play them if I'm the 1 seed, just because like this team is so talented, it would scare me a bit.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I would still expect them to lose. Maybe they could catch an Alabama, I guess, but like I wouldn't pick that.
So you don't really see them. You don't really see them as like a second weekend team.
No, I don't.
Okay, all right. I've been hearing the same thing about St. John's. Speaking of, not to get too far ahead of ourselves. We're mainly talking about teams getting in, but while we're on the topic of second weekend teams, I've heard a lot of people say that St. John's offense is not really equipped to be a second weekend team. Can you kind of assess that?
I can't lie. I kind of agree. The problem is the defense is amazing, and it is really hard on like a quick turnaround to plan for an elite defense. I think it depends on the matchup, but like St. John's is a team that I think has such a high floor and such a high ceiling and such a low floor, just because like if let's say Bradley ends up beating Drake today and they draw St. John's in the first round, they wouldn't. That's not how the bracket's going to work, but like just for hypothetical sake, Bradley shoots a ton of threes. If they're hitting that day, St. John's does not have the firepower to match up. If Bradley banks in 4 threes in a game, I don't know if St. John's has the firepower to match that. Like they'd have to, obviously the team below them would have to get lucky. That is what has to happen for an upset to happen. But like, I don't think St. John's is built from that perspective, like to really get punched in the mouth and see it sustain in a tournament setting. Versus if St. John's is able to control a game, they'll be up like 6 after like 7 minutes. Then they'll be up 12 at halftime. Then they'll be up like 15, and like it'll build like that. Yeah. But like if some team is hitting fluky shots, I think they're in trouble. But it really depends on matchups. I'm going to say that every single time this question is asked. But like if St. John's is a 3, that feels about right where St. John's is going to be. I don't see any of this. I think the only 6th that I would like be concerned with if they got matched up is Louisville. I think they destroy St. Mary's if they match up. That is a bad matchup for St.
Louisville destroy St. Mary's?
I think Gonzaga would.
Oh, Gonzaga would. Oh, yeah.
I mean, excuse me, not Gonzaga. St. John's would.
St. John's would. Yeah.
I mixed up our conversations from earlier. I think they'd kill them. I think they'd beat Mississippi, and I think they're not going to get Marquette. So Louisville would be the team I'd be afraid to match up with just because they space the floor and they shoot the shit out of the ball.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense because St. John's, obviously, they've struggled to shoot the three. They've also struggled. They've defended at an elite level everywhere but three, right? Like all the teams that have kind of taken them down, which, have not been too many. It's only been four. But, those teams shoot the three very well. Okay. The one team that you did not include that clinched a regular season title, I believe, I don't think a loss to Michigan today could hurt them at all because they're 2 games ahead. Michigan State, they are the Big Ten regular season champs. You did not include them as a lock to be winning the Big Ten tournament. Anything for you that feels like could stop Michigan State, or do you just feel like the Big Ten is just one of those conferences where it's like it's pretty even, so the conference tournament champ is kind of a toss up?
It's pretty even. Yeah, I will want to see the bracket and think about it like that. But we'll put Michigan State in just for the time being. We'll
we'll throw them in.
Yeah, throw them in there. Why not?
Okay. All right. So that makes 6 teams. 6 teams in this field have clinched the auto bid, hypothetically. So now in the teams that are outside the bubble, we have to fill in those spots so we can get back up to 37. For you, any team that jumps out, I mean, I know the big one that I feel like we want to include is UC San Diego. But, I mean, if you have any qualms with that, let me know. I mean, they just finished – last night they pulled off a 68-57 win over UC Davis. That is their – they haven't lost a game since January 18th. I know we talk about that a lot on the pod. Is there anything that you feel like UC San Diego has left to prove for the committee?
I just don't want to see them get a really bad loss in the conference tournament. That would worry me because the committee loves screwing over mid-majors. And just from watching this team over the last couple games, I'm not too impressed. I definitely will have to dig in, watch some more tape, but they don't scream amazing team just from the last 2 or 3 games I've seen them play. We'll definitely want to dig into more tape if they end up making the tournament, because if they play Marquette, I'm going to pick the upset. So I want to learn why. Why am I picking this upset? But yeah, but I really think they should be in the tournament. Them and Drake. Drake plays in about a couple hours.
Yeah.
If Drake loses that game, I don't give a shit. They should be in my tournament.
Okay.
Does that mean that's where are we doing this from the perspective of who would Michael put in the tournament just because we want to? Or
act like you're a committee member. So I think, and value your own opinion to a certain extent. Yeah.
Okay. The first team I'd put in once, I want those 2 teams to make the tournament, but the first team I'd put in from our outside bubble is Vanderbilt. I think they're
Vanderbilt.
A lock.
Okay.
I think they're a lock.
What about Vanderbilt makes them a lock?
The recent success, really. They've won some couple big games. Trying to find their analytical profile. Yeah, they're 43rd in the net. That's fine. But they have 5 Q1 wins, above 500 in Q2, undefeated against Q3, Q4. They've been decent on the road, but it's the last couple wins they've gotten in the SEC. The SEC is a dominant league, so they've had more opportunities to get those wins, but beat Missouri, at Texas A&M and won, beat Mississippi are their last 3 wins. Those are all Q1A almost wins, frankly. Yeah, this team is really, really good. The way they space the floor, I think, is impressive. I like watching them play. But yeah, it's just they've gotten big wins. They didn't start the season amazing. None of their non-conference wins really do anything, but they're in the SEC. They put together what? Yeah, they won 8 SEC games. They went 8-10 in the SEC. They're going to make the tournament. Okay,
so if you're saying Vanderbilt's a lock, there is kind of a chain reaction that I kind of want to ask you about.
Okay.
If they are a lock, there are 2 teams that are ahead of them that they actually lost their last 2 regular season games to, and that is Arkansas, which they lost on March 4th, 90-77, and then Georgia, which they lost, yesterday on the last day of the season, 79-68. If Vanderbilt is that much of a lock for you, does that also mean that Arkansas and Georgia are locks?
Georgia, yes. Georgia was going to be the third team I mentioned. Arkansas, I'm waiting on. I think they'll end up making it, but I am waiting for the time being just to see what other teams I would put ahead of them.
Got it. So Arkansas, would you say Arkansas is dependent on a potential bid stealer?
Probably. You wouldn't want too many bid stealers if you're an Arkansas fan.
Yeah.
But
bid stealer out of stealing a bid from a high major or stealing a bid from a possible multi-bid mid-major.
Mid-major. I don't see a high major bid stealer this year. There just isn't a team like that really like just kind of gives me that vibe. Like I follow the Big East the closest, but like just looking at the Big East, it's really I could see Xavier like making a run just because they're really hot at this time. But like would they be a bid stealer? They'd be like considered an at-large at that point. Villanova is really the only other contender because like if we're looking at the 7, that's Georgetown. They're running 6 guys. They're not winning 4 games in 4 days with 6 guys. You're just not doing that. The 8-9 in that league stink. The 10 seed in that league stinks. The 11 seed stinks. So like it's not gonna happen in the Big East. The ACC, like that would be the one league, but like, is anyone beating Duke? No. SEC, no, because the entire league's making the tournament. The Big 12, not really. So Big 10, no. All the half decent teams in that league are also making the tournament. Like we have one Big 10 team. We have a couple Big 10 teams on the board, but we'll talk about some of those teams later. But I think it'd be from like an A10 could see a bid stealer if VCU's in the tournament. We could see a bid stealer from. I think Drake's bid should be locked in. I think they'd be a team that I think should really be in the tournament, especially because they beat Vanderbilt, who we just talked about. The Mountain West could see a bid stealer. We're not sure which teams in their league are locks and not. And Colorado State looks really good lately. That's a team that could steal a bid without a doubt. So even if Thomas comes back, please.
Can I highlight a bid stealer specifically out of the Atlantic 10? So on the A10 Talk podcast, which I'm also the host of, we talked about a weird pattern that's kind of popped up in the last 5 years, not counting the 2020 tournament that didn't finish. In the last 5 years, the 1 seed has won. See, now I'm going to mess this up. The 1 seed has won twice in the last 5 completed Atlantic 10 tournaments. Those other 3 winners, guess what seed they've been?
That Richmond team was the 6, right? So I'm going to say 6.
Yeah, the 6 team, exactly. So the 6 team this year, actually, in the Atlantic 10 are the St. Joe's Hawks, which I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to see them play. They are really good. They are very talented. They have some NBA talent on that.
They are Jekyll and Hyde. They're either amazing. You watch them play and they're either the best team in the country, or you watch them play and they're going to lose to the 17 seed in the A10.
Very fair, very fair. But at their ceiling, they are one of the most talented teams like in mid-major basketball. In my opinion.
If St. Joe's goes on a run and is your 13 seed, if I am the 4 seed, I am shitting myself. That is a horrible draw.
Yeah, so look out for that because if you're looking for a multi-bid A10, I mean look out for that sneaky St. Joe's team. Well, who made a push to the to the semifinals in last year's tournament too.
As a Tony Skinn stan, I will be picking George Mason to win the A10. Like that is happening.
No, he's great. He's fantastic. So
sharp dude.
So just kind of reset where we're at right now. We've got Drake. So that is a conference where you could see a potential bid thief from that.
Like it's the mid-major, the good mid-major leagues that I'm looking at, especially the American and Memphis.
Yeah.
Memphis kind of ended the season looking like shit. Like they won games, but like they won every game close. They're going to have to beat a couple like pretty good teams. I could see in North Texas, I could see UAB, I could see some of these other like decent American teams picking them off, and Memphis being like a 7 seed that I'm not confident wins a game in the tournament.
Now, if Memphis has a bad exit out of the American, could you see them missing the cut?
NCAA tournament? No.
No? Okay.
They're in.
Are there any teams in this should be in category? I did kind of want to get into that. Are there any teams that you feel like could miss the cut?
I think if everything goes wrong, which means like literally everything goes wrong, San Diego State is the one that I think could miss the tournament. I would have Vanderbilt ahead of them, and there's one other team we were going to talk about in a couple of minutes that would be West Virginia that I also would have ahead of San Diego State at this point.
West Virginia, you have as one of those 6 that could fill that spot.
West Virginia was my next team.
Got it.
I have those 2 ahead of San Diego State at this point. So like if everything goes wrong, meaning the committee, like, just for whatever reason doesn't like them, and we see multiple bid stealers, I think they could miss. But I think that is like a 5% outcome, maybe even less.
Gotcha. Okay, so West Virginia becomes, because I put Arkansas in the dependent on bid stealers category, right? Yeah. So I put Arkansas there. So that means we have Drake, West Virginia, Vanderbilt, and Georgia in that filling in for those auto bid teams. So we've got 2 more. Oklahoma.
Oh, Oklahoma's here. I didn't even see them. I still would put
Ohio State, maybe?
I'd put VCU above them both.
VCU, okay.
Yeah. I think VCU, maybe they're in that, like, dependent on bid stealers tier, but, like, I think they're a tournament team. I think they should.
No, I agree.
I don't think they're a lock to make the tournament. Like, I think they're on the bubble for a reason, but VCU and oh my God, I cannot believe this sentence is coming out of my mouth. Indiana's a tournament team.
Indiana.
They're not missing it. They're not missing it. They might not even be in Dayton this year. If that isn't it, what we need to do if we want to talk like tournament expansion, last year we should have had 72 teams in the tournament. This year we should have 64. Like it should be dependent every year.
So it should like ebb and flow with like how many more teams. Like if there are teams where it's like so hard to like figure out who deserves it, you just get both in.
Last year's Seton Hall team would be in the should be in category right now. Like if we just took that team, took Bikini Bottom and put it somewhere else, we took them, put it here, they're better than some of these teams that are in the should be in tier.
Yes. No, I get that. That totally makes sense. Can I offer a caveat to the VCU one?
Please.
Because I know that you're so adamant about putting Mason as the winner of the Atlantic 10 tournament, but VCU and George Mason are co-Atlantic 10 regular season champions. I feel like it's just, whichever one of them doesn't win the tournament, unless it's both of them, like one of them has to be in, I feel like, in my opinion. Unless you feel like George Mason doesn't have as strong of an at-large case.
Yeah, I don't think George Mason makes the tournament if they don't win the Atlantic 10. Which is kind of a bummer because they're also like
they're so good.
Really good. Yeah.
I mean, they're co-regular season champs for a reason. The only thing is though, they didn't beat VCU. They never beat VCU this year. So
if you put George Mason on a neutral site and made them play Ohio State, George Mason should be above a 5-point favorite.
Wow. Okay.
George Mason is much better than this Ohio State team. I have zero faith. So I'm like, Ohio State, oh my God, are they like on like the bubble, like widely? Yeah, they're on the bubble. And Ohio State is a team I don't believe in at all. I believe in them less than I believe in Indiana. And I just talked about how bad Indiana is. Ohio State is not good. They're a bad basketball team. They are bad.
Yeah.
But Boise's better than them. They might make it over Boise. UCSD is better than them. Xavier's much better than them right now. Xavier, same, maybe like a 6-point favorite on it. If that game is played in Dayton, if it's Xavier, Ohio State, hypothetically speaking, Xavier's going to win that basketball game. There is no doubt in my mind.
Got it. So you're putting Xavier in the same category as VCU, Indiana?
I put Xavier in the dependent on bid stealers category with Arkansas.
Xavier. Any more teams in that category? Nebraska? How you feeling about Nebraska this year?
I'd put Oklahoma and Ohio State in that dependent on bid stealers category.
Oklahoma, Ohio State. Okay.
What is Nebraska's resume looking like? I think they're kind of an interesting case. Seemingly, they're on the outside looking in, but some of this, they're like 4th out in the matrix, but some of like the bracketologists here have them in. So there must be something about the resume. Yeah.
These big chunks of red, just in their record. You know what I mean? They had a 6-game losing streak in the middle of conference play. Then they finished their season losing 5 of their last 6. Like they lost a lot of games.
Yeah,
17-13 is just not really an NCAA tournament resume.
If they didn't have either of those quad 3 losses, they're probably in the tournament, but they've got 2 of them, and that's not good. 5 Q1 wins is actually really good for this bubble. Like comparing them, Indiana only has 4. SMU is SMU on this graphic.
Yeah,
get them the fuck out of here. They have 0. SMU can't beat anybody with a pulse. Boise State only has 2. Oklahoma, West Virginia got 6. That's why I jumped them in. Xavier's only got 1. They have an opportunity for a second one that they need to take. Vanderbilt's also got 5. It's just those 2 bad losses that are killing them.
What about North Carolina? North Carolina, they showed an interesting stat during the broadcast on ESPN yesterday. Like they're 2-11 now in quad 1 opportunities, but that still means they've played 13 quad 1 teams. Like
1-11, according to the net site today.
1-11, excuse me. What do you make of them?
They're not good. I am convinced that if they won that game yesterday, they were not missing the tournament. Like the committee was just going to find a way to put them in.
No, totally.
But they lost. Like I think they are a team that the committee is going to find any excuse to put them in, but I don't think they have given any excuse to be in the tournament at this point. I don't know. They have 1 quad 1 win despite playing 12 times. That's the reason I'd leave Xavier out at this point. But the thing with those 2 resumes that differs, North Carolina is 4 teams better in the net. Okay, great. But North Carolina's got a bad loss.
So are they a potential bid stealing team for you?
I guess, but like, I don't know. I don't even particularly like Xavier, but like, I would be actively angry if Xavier was kept out for North Carolina. I'd be much angrier if Drake was kept out, if UCSD was kept out, if VCU was kept out for North Carolina. But I'd be angry if Xavier was the team that was kept out for North Carolina. North Carolina's not a tournament team unless they can beat Clemson, and Louisville in the ACC tournament. And I don't know how the ACC tournament brackets looks up. Actually, let me look at that. Let's see what they have to do. This thrilling radio. Let's see. What is this bracket looking like? North Carolina is the 5. So that means they have to. Yeah, they play Wake and then Duke. Yeah, you have to beat Wake and Duke. Okay, great. And even then, one thing I think we have to consider, the tournament committee sometimes cares about the like conference tournaments. It's like logs them as like key wins. And sometimes they don't. It just depends on the year. I wish I could give a more scientific answer on when they do, when they don't. There's no method to it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. We don't know. Last year, I don't think they did. This year, I don't think they will either. But like that's just a guess, just because I don't know how much the committee has changed. I mean, maybe there are a couple new people, so I don't know. It is completely 50-50 on whether these games this week matter for bubble teams or does it only matter to win your league.
Yeah. It's so hard to say like how much they should evaluate those games. I mean, I think they should to a degree. I just don't know the degree to which they should do it.
I think one thing we should fix is there should be some league championship games on Friday, like the smaller leagues. It just gets you like something to look at. Saturday, only league titles, nothing on Sunday. That Sunday has nothing on it. It is just for bracketing. And as a result, they then can look at all these games. Because we preach in college basketball how the entire body of work matters. A game in November matters as much as a game in March. Stakes obviously are a little different in March. You either want to win your league title or because you put yourself on the bubble, this is the game that can get you off the bubble. So like stakes, but like from a resume perspective, game in November matters as much as a game in March. Game in March for a league title should matter. Like that should also matter. So in a league championship game, conference tournament, that should matter as well. So if we just left Sunday, all day Sunday for just bracketing, I think that would solve a lot of problems if we don't have to like consider, oh, all right, we need to have 8 brackets for if Auburn beats Alabama or Alabama beats Auburn, or, oh, where do we put the Ivy League team? Do we just put insert Ivy League team here? Or, well, Yale's better than Princeton. So if Yale wins it, Yale should be a little higher than Princeton. Or the A10 tournament's on a Sunday, right? Yeah, like
A10, Big Ten, and then a few more.
Yeah, like no, nothing should be on the Sunday. Just no.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, the Sunday games are fun though. I'm going to be watching them, but like
Oh yeah, they're great.
Yeah,
but it's just tough. It's
from
as someone who's covered the A10 in person the past 2 years, well, the past 3 years, it's kind of crazy getting from the end of the game and because those press conferences run long, right? Like you want to get as much time with both teams as you can before they get to their respective watch parties for the selection show. But then once those conferences end, it's like, oh my God, we're in it. Like, and then it's like in an hour, you've got the selection show. It's like, oh my God, scrambling, it's crazy.
Yeah. I would say it's probably good. Like if a VCU loses in the A10 championship game, it probably doesn't give them enough time to like really stress out. So for that perspective, it's probably like a good thing. Like you just lost. You're like, all right, well, let's go. Let's get our post-game meal and then let's show up and watch this thing. But like from a logic perspective, just no. It just doesn't make sense. But like a lot of things in this sport don't make sense. So,
and that's why we love it.
Exactly.
Final thought on UNC, based on the way you've talked about it and the way that you actually brought Drake into the mix. The parallels between UNC snubbing Drake and Virginia snubbing Indiana State last year, they're running right now.
God, Virginia.
What do you make of that?
Virginia was so bad last year. Yeah. I mean, I could absolutely see it happening where like just based on, I mean, I don't know who's on the committee, but like it's going to be hard for them to keep UNC out. And like to the extent like, oh yeah, we do blind resumes, like, right? Probably. But at some point, someone probably came across what they think UNC's resume is, and they will just like argue for like why UNC should be in the tournament. It's just a hard team to turn down. And from that perspective, I could see them in the same way. I don't know. Texas would be fun if they make the tournament, but they don't deserve to make the tournament. So like, fuck them.
Okay. So just to wrap it up, the teams that should be in the should be in category, we've got Duke, Gonzaga, Houston, Auburn, St. John's, and Michigan State as probable favorites to win their respective conference tournaments.
Yeah.
And because of that opens up 6 spots, which we think will be filled by Drake, West Virginia, Vanderbilt, Georgia. Obviously, Drake if they don't win the tournament today.
Yeah.
So Drake, West Virginia, Vanderbilt, Georgia, VCU if they don't win the A10, and Indiana. Then waiting in the wings are the bid stealers, that being Arkansas, Oklahoma, UNC, Xavier, and Ohio State. And the one team that is in the should be in category that is at the most risk of somehow missing the tournament is San Diego State.
Yeah. And I think if I will go as far as say if Drake wins today, I would move Arkansas from the bids to like the other one because Drake jumps to like the confirmed.
Got it. Yep. I see that. So folks, we're here. Get ready. It's gonna be a mess. There's gonna be something crazy that happens later this week, and we're gonna be here for it. And next week we'll be here for the 2025 Selection Sunday show on all of the House of College Hoops channels and on House Enterprise. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. Maybe we'll be posting about it on our threads, DeRosa, if you kind of want to take some control there. But otherwise, for Michael DeRosa, I'm Sam Basel. This has been the latest Basel Pod. We hope you have a great next week of college basketball, and we'll see you guys here next Sunday.